Hey, this is Andrew, and I am going to be bringing you a little something different. I got to be on the stream for the Las Vegas Vault Tour, which was a triad format, and this was round 6. So going into this, I had 4 wins and a loss, and Devin also had 4 wins and a loss. So, a lot was on the line here. Whoever won this game would get to go on to day 2. And it was a great matchup, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to go ahead and put up a video of it with my own commentary? So another Andrew, Grand Staff over at One Star Peeps 5-Star Games, who did the stream, went ahead and sent me a copy of the raw video file to work with. So thank you so much, Andrew. And so that's what this is. I'm gonna ground rules here. If you've watched my other videos, you probably already know who wins. But just in case, I'm going to try not to spoil it too much. My main objective here is just to give commentary on what I was thinking and what was kind of going on the table. Because listening to the commentary from the streamers, sometimes they had something was shining, they couldn't see what exactly a card was, or sometimes they just might not know what's going on in a player's head. I realized I have this regrettable habit that I'm going to try to break of using my cards in such a way that it's not very easy for someone watching the stream to see what's in my hand. And actually, I think for good streaming, it would be nice for people to see what's in my hand. So I'll try to kind of fill in those gaps as well. If you enjoy it, awesome. I'm so happy. If not, then that's totally fine if this isn't for you. And then another quick bit before I go in. Devin was just a really awesome player and person to get to interact with. I was there with my daughter, my brother-in-law, my nephew, a friend. Devin was there with at least his nephew. I think might have been more than that, but he had come out for his nephew's birthday, and to take him to a vault tour for his birthday was just super awesome. And I think I've seen somebody else point this out, but the number of dads, uncles, just family that are a part of the Keyforge community makes it a really fun community. And I love that it's a game that you can have both generations playing. And sometimes my dad will play too. He wouldn't go to a vault tour, but he'll play with us as well. So I just love that multi-generational aspect of it. Somebody sent me a message after one of my other videos saying they'd had a little bit of a negative experience with some of the community, and I'd said something nice about the community in one of my videos, and they were saying, where's the great community you're talking about? And I think Devin here is just a perfect example of what I mean. So anyway, hopefully that comes across even though you can't hear what we're saying to each other. Okay, so let me go ahead and get that video started. And I'm going to mess around with the speed a little bit because obviously there's some parts that are pretty dead. It's funny, in the triad format, the way they run it at the event is you really have to wait for the time. And then they say, okay, here, now you can look at your opponent's deck lists. You hand them across, and you have 5 minutes. I'm going to really speed this up. You have 5 minutes to do this. Now, I started doing this thing with my keys, just to think of the decks as red, blue, yellow. I don't know that it ever really helped me, but I just thought, hey, if I give myself a little visual cue, maybe that'll help me a little more. So we're looking at each other's decks, and what we end up doing, we both end up here choosing to I forget exactly what decks he had, but I have one of my decks has Brobnar, one of his decks had Brobnar, and we both ended up choosing the other person's Brobnar deck to strike. And after we did that, I made a comment to him, oh, I bet the stream is going to be like really upset at us. And he said, why? And I said, because we both chose to strike Brobnar, and according to the popular wisdom, that's clearly the wrong choice. Um, so I thought that was kind of funny that we both went that direction, but yeah, I didn't want to play against his Brobner deck, and he didn't want to play against my Brobner deck. By the way, this was his idea that this was Devin's idea that when we went to when we went to choose which decks we were striking, we would put the one we were striking on top of the list, on top of the other two lists under the table, so we could simultaneously reveal in a really fair way. That worked out great, and I ended up reusing that idea since then. So
basically the fastest deck he brought, and he's hoping to just race with it.
So yeah, this one that I'm using here, I felt like was the stronger of the two decks that I had left, and that was why I chose to go with it. My philosophy going in was that I wanted to win game one, because I just think that puts you on a better a better mental state going into game two, and I'd rather play my stronger deck first and just get that out of the way. Not everybody necessarily needs to think that way, but that's definitely how I thought about it. Yeah. A lot of nervousness here because they make you wait for the right time. So we're doing all this stuff here. By the way, here's how I started cutting people's decks: is I would count out piles of 6. That way I know. That way I know they have 36. And it wasn't like I was worried Devin would cheat or anything like that. I just, wanted to make sure if there was a problem like that we caught it very early. Because obviously if we caught it right now, we could go around the hall, we could find the missing card, versus if we catch it mid-game, that's a problem. Now, I have a lot of Untamed in this opening hand. It's a really solid opening hand. I don't remember what I did. I think I keep it though. Yeah. And he mold. But I just had a great opening hand, and I believe I'm going first. I think I had 7 cards in there. So there's a little bit of an element of, I'm probably going to drop a non-Untamed on turn 1. I actually didn't rewatch this game yet, so we'll kind of be going through it together. Don't need to recount it, just give it a quick shuffle. Okay, start with a quick so, just dumping something out of my hand I don't have a lot of. So he gets a good boost right off the bat, dropping a Flaxia down, and also a Helicore. I'm kind of like, wow, I want to deal with these. The quick so obviously isn't going to be enough to deal with them. I don't like losing the Chota so early, but getting him down, I don't lose an Amber since I didn't have any yet. I play the Dust Pixie, gain 2, another Dust Pixie, go to 4, which is a really nice start. And then I think that's a Perilous Wilds, and a Lost in the Woods, right? Yeah. So I took Chota and a Dust Pixie, and obviously both of his have to go back. Now, I think, more obvious play might have been to put both Dust Pixies back in the deck, but in my mind, I wanted to have a chance to to key cheat later with the Chota, and that's why I went that direction. Now, by the way, I'll just say this really quick because this is something that came up later on in the community. Notice Devin there, he shuffled, he forgot to have me cut. And I very quickly just said, hey, can I cut your deck? He handed it over. This was game 6 of day 1, so we're pretty tired. We've played, I had I had any games go 2-0 yet? I'm not sure I had. So I think I'd played 15 games up till this point. This is my 16th game of the day. So it's pretty crazy. And anyway, but you just gotta try to stay on top of remembering those things. There's something I noticed later that gets missed in game 2, so we'll see that. But anyway, it was just an oversight on his part. I remembered it. I always try. You'll notice when I went to have him cut, I put it way over here on his side of the table so that it's like in his way until he decides to cut it. I like to do that because if somebody's in the middle of doing something, I don't necessarily want to break their stride to make them cut my deck, but I want to put it where they can't forget. So anyway, that was my methodology there. And you'll see here, how they had us dealing out our cards too, right? I left my 1 on the table. I put 5 more on top of it, counted them out before I flipped up. And that's just to give a lot of opportunities to fix mistakes before you see cards. If you accidentally put out too many cards. Now, I have tried to be, what I would like to be in the habit of doing is what I did here, where I'm just leaving my cards on the table, but then I keep getting nervous and picking them back up. So I need to stop that. That's less nice for on stream, but I don't feel like players need to primarily, worry about the stream so much. Now I was at 6, so he just wanted to keep me from forging, which is I think wise. Putting out an old Bruno with a Ring of Invisibility on it, because why not? And that's annoying. Now I'll say it now because I really try to preach this, and I feel like anyway I wish. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not that helpful to people, but when I see cards, when I see capture on the table of my amber, my tendency is to leave it and not stress about it. I would usually rather, and so, I didn't really have a way to deal with it right then, but I wouldn't prioritize necessarily getting rid of this, especially because it's going to cost 2 fights, and at some point. Come on, one of us will probably play a board wipe, so I'll get it back eventually. I don't need to stress out about it. And by the way, I don't usually stack my amber this way on the keys. I kind of did this for the stream, and it was really uncomfortable, and I didn't like it. So I wouldn't do it again. And Devin is over here doing things the rulebook way, and I think that makes sense. I like that way. Put a collar on the Mighty Tiger. That is going to help me a bit. I want to have that big creature. Definitely don't want to put it on the old Bruno, because that means when it would leave, he would get the amber, which I wouldn't like. He already has a key now, and I'm at 5. He drops a Moon Cursor on the board, which I'm definitely not happy about. I want that Moon Cursor to be dead. The Mighty Tiger is a good pickup with the collar because I do have Untamed in my deck, so I can potentially, if I go Untamed, I can kill it. If I go Dees, I can use the Dominator Bauble to kill it. So what did I put on him there? That's a you know what? I actually don't know what upgrade that is. Way of the... I think it's... Let me look up my deck here. I think that is maybe Assault 2. I think that's Way of the Wolf. Way of the Bear, sorry. Way of the Bear, it's Assault 2, yeah. So he's going to kill the Moon Cursor now, and obviously the Moon Cursor dies, he lives. Play the Chota, lose an Amber, and forge for 6. And I did a quick scan of the board, just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I really should have done that before I played it. Draw to 6 and go. Ooh, he has a lot of shadows in there. But I exhaust his creatures with the Nocturnal Maneuver. So yeah, ugh, he gets 2 for the Flaxia. That's his second time getting 2 off the Flaxia. I don't like that. Lost in the Woods. Yeah, he wants the Tentacus gone. Yeah, Mighty Tiger says it goes in its owner's deck. He leaves me the Choda, which makes a lot of sense, and then he still has to pick 2. So he actually gets 3 creatures back in his deck here. He put back, let's see. Yeah, he put back the Flaxia and the Witch of the Eye to maybe get more value out of that Flaxia. And I think he wanted to leave his Shadows stuff out because he has 2 or 3 Shadows cards in his hand. He has a good Shadows setup right now in his hand, and so he wants to leave those Shadows creatures out since they theoretically will be ready next turn. Yeah, that's annoying. So he's at, I think, 3 or 4 Amber now, and that's not good. Although I still have that Amber sitting on the Old Bruno that I could get at some point. So I'm not too worried. I go Logos. I use the Library of Babel. I think I did not draw anything I want. I discard Remote Access because unfortunately Remote Access would help him here instead of me. That made me sad. Get out a Titan Mechanic and 2 Archivists. And go. Yep. So he goes Shadows. He does put one on Safe Place. He puts the Silent Dagger on Nexus, which is, just making me sad. So he reaps with the Nexus, kills my Archivist, uses Library, but oh, that's so bad. So feel bad. And the Old Bruno has the Ring of Invisibility, so it could kill one of my creatures right now and not get hurt. But he's at, I think, 4 Amber with 1 on the Safe Place. So he chooses to reap, and that puts him on check, which I think makes sense. Oh yeah, and he uses the Pawn Sacrifice to kill 2. Yeah, that's the other reason. Yeah. Gets rid of the Dodger. Which is interesting, but I think it makes a lot of sense because he's looking at, okay, the creature I have left is a big 6-power creature where he's going to end up not being able to use the Dodger anyway, unless I play something else small. So I think that was a pretty reasonable move by him. So he's on check again, I think. Oh, maybe just with 5 plus the 1 from Safe Place. Charette captures 3. Dust Imp, Tentacus, Succubus. So this is like a pretty good D-spread here, and it should keep him off of Forging, which is good. And yeah, I get to Dominator Bobble. Titan Mechanic for an Amber. Discarding Arise, which maybe, you might look and say, hey, that was a wrong move, but at this point, I kind of know I want to move through my deck, and because I know what's left, and so to me it just made sense to get rid of the Arise in that situation. He goes for looking at my discard pile, and I think I said, you have Mimicry, and he does. I think at this point he was pretty set on going Untamed, and so it's not a big deal to give your opponent that information right before you do the thing. The only problem he has is that the Flaxia won't get value this turn. So, and I think this is where he said he made a mistake later, because he played those. Oh nope. This isn't. Maybe that's in the next game. Yeah. So he puts Charette back in my deck, which gets him that Amber back. and the Succubus, which is pretty reasonable. And then his untamed creatures again. He mimicred my Lost in the Woods, just in case you didn't catch that. Yeah. Yup. And notice this is something I've been trying to do since game 5. I had kind of a bad experience where, I say it that way, it was really extra bad for my opponent. They overdrew by 1 when I had Succubus, and it was right at the end of game 3. And I got to knock a card out of their hand, and it felt so bad to me to have that happen right at the end of the game that I just started being really hawkish about it for the rest of the event. And since then, really too, I'm not perfect about it, but I try to just leave my cards down and keep watching them until they have completely finished doing anything that they might do. So he does that Nexus Reap. The problem that he has right now is he has to use an artifact. It's not a May. He has to use an artifact, and because I have Tentacus, he has to pay me 1. Now he still gets to kill a creature, but ultimately I gain 1 out of the Reap, so I get a benefit. He draws a card, so there's that. But my Tentacus did come in handy there. Now he's currently cost 5 unless I put something there. Yep. So that drives me up to 6. I'm catching up here because he's still on his first key. He's still getting ready for a second key. And on top of that, I have... I went off the screen there. I don't know what that was. Yeah, I don't know what that was. Let me see if I can catch it. Am I deciding whether to play it? Oh, Witch of the Eye. Oh, nope, that's Dew Fairy, and then Witch of the Eye. Yep. What's that? Huh, what's that action I have in my hand? It looks like Lost in the Woods. No, it's not. It's, oh, it's Nature's Call. Am I still deciding what to do? Oh, yeah, did I do the Nature's Call? Yeah. Yeah, I played the Nature's Call. So I pushed those two back, the Bruno and the Nexus back in his hand. That gets rid of their upgrades, which is really good for me. Helps me, and then I think I'm choosing here to pull the Dust Pixie back into my hand and then play it again. Now the unfortunate thing here is this potentially opens me up to a Too Much to Protect, but I think I had seen that he didn't have one. So I have a pretty fat stack of Amber over there at this point. Yeah. From that play. And he can drop the old Bruno again, and that's okay. But that kind of forces him into yeah, there was no Too Much to Protect. That kind of forces him into a situation where he can choose to go Shadows and drop that stuff on the board, but then he doesn't get to do anything about my board state. He doesn't get to do anything about my Amber. So I think it makes sense for him to go Untamed here, drive my key cost up by 1 with the Murmook, get some shot at the board state. But I think he's in a really bad position here because of my board state and my ability to just generate Amber. It puts him in a bad spot. But I think if I'm him here, I go Untamed, drop that stuff on the board. That way I at least spend 1 more for the key, and he knows he can drop the old Bruno next turn. But it's a tough spot. I think it's a real tough spot at this point. And he goes with the Shadows, so he does the old Bruno. He reaps with the Shadow Self, and he plays the Nexus, and that's it. Yeah. So play the Dust Pixie for 2, do Fairy for 1, Reap with the Witch of the Eye, uh, get back Chota, and win. Yep. And yeah, I don't think the Murmook would have mattered there, especially because I would have still had those 3 that had been on Old Bruno. So yeah, that's how the game goes. I count out just to make sure. I think we were, yeah, he was talking through that last turn, and yeah, it wouldn't have made a difference. So I think he made a fine call. It was a rough spot to be in, and that's just a crazy deck. So all right, so he's on the same deck at this point, and he needs to shuffle that safe place back in. But he's on the same deck this time, and I am switching to now. Squirrel, who's my brother-in-law, thought that I was having to switch to Honorable, which is my double Control the Weak, double Doorstep, Screaming Cave. It's silly. It's a very silly deck. But actually, that was the one that Devin had benched, so it's not that. This deck is my Martian Generosity Key Abduction deck, which I have since sold. I ultimately just, if I'm gonna, people local hate it. They kind of just were tired of seeing it, so I didn't feel really comfortable bringing it to events locally, and just because I like my community and I want those people to want to keep coming back. But it's actually not as good generally as my other 2 decks that I brought to the Triad. So I am, trying to figure out a different 3rd deck to slot in for Triad, and not this one. While I was there, I got to play against a Martian Generosity Key Abduction deck that is definitely better than this one. Definitely. And beat it with my double Control the Weak deck. So I feel like, Martian Generosity Key Abduction, I think people don't like that, oh, you drew your whole hand thing. People don't like when that happens. But the truth is that it can be beat. And he's choosing to do a pile shuffle to count my deck out as his way of cutting, which again is perfectly viable, perfectly legal, and maybe even better than my way, because I've heard some people don't like when other people riffle shuffle their deck. I think it's fine, but if I guess if there are people out there who don't like it, then his way of doing it is extra respectful. So anyway, definitely you could emulate that. And he chose to let me go first, I think, which I think is probably nice for him. I don't particularly love going first with this deck, Haukea. And he's trying to make sure he has a good look at it. I think he at some point was worried about time, and I said, don't worry about it. We are we have over a full hour left for our next 2 games. You are good. By the way, just highlighting where I think it's just difficult for systems to account for things. This deck that I'm playing with right now is 58 in the new SAS system. It was a 77 in the old SAS system. Both those are, well under the power curve. And people in my local store, one guy has said, "Oh, that deck's unbeatable." It's not. It got beat a couple times at this event. So what do I have in my hand? I'm not sure what I have. Oh, he has a rough starting hand. Because bait and switch. Oh, he drew a lab work. That's good. So Carpet Flotsam and Key Abduction, which is a terrible start. I hate having to do that on turn 1, but I had it, and it just made sense to do. So Key Abduction goes in the bin. I got the amber from it, but it feels bad. That is a Sucker Punch. Gain an amber, do 2 damage to something. I do it to the Mighty Tiger. Discard a second Sucker Punch and Merkins. I play the top card of his deck. Ooh, I got a Doc Bookton. That's okay. It's not going to help me because I don't have any way to use out-of-house creatures in this deck. I could take a Logos turn just to do that, but it wouldn't make a lot of sense. I do drop a Sting on the board and discard Swindle, because at this point I really wanted to move through my deck, and so saving the Swindle doesn't make sense. Also, saving the Swindle when you have Sting on the board is not, doesn't make a lot of sense. So he's going to lab work and archive his bait and switch, which makes a lot of sense. Save it for a time where it'll work better. Phase shifts, Dodger. I mean, what a great turn. What a great turn. And he draws to 7 because of the mother. Oh. A God protecting Doc Bookton makes me extra sad. I played Not Finished With You, not returning anything, because that is sometimes the way to go. And I push the Gub up. The rules suggest doing that for things with Taunt. I think with Gub it's extra helpful because it helps highlight, oh yeah, it is a power 6 right now. He drops Safe Place on the board, gets that Moon Cursor down, Shadow Self protecting the Moon Cursor. That's making me sad. Uses Merkins to fight, or uses Dodger to fight Merkins rather. And by the way, you'll notice there's actually 2 mistakes that have been made so far. And again, I really want to stress, I don't even for a second think that either of these was intentional. The first is his key is flipped, which somebody points out soon after this, that his key was left flipped from the previous game. I saw that happen more times that day. It happened to me. It's a pretty common mistake in these best of 3 matchups. So something to watch out for. And the other thing was not putting 2 damage on the Dodger, which just fought Merkins. Anyway, not a big deal, and like just a mistake. But I pointed out to highlight that good players with perfect intentions sometimes make those kind of mistakes. That's all. And the Dodger thing, it could matter, right? At this point, it could matter because he could maybe get 1 extra fight out of it or something like that, which would benefit him. So I Martian Generosity, and that puts me to, I think, 5, and then I draw 10. Yeah. Which is great, but I know the Key Abduction is in my discard pile, so I know I didn't get Key Abduction. I know I'm not going to have a Carpet Flotsam play here. But I also know, I have Sting on the board. He hasn't forged a key yet, and this gets me ahead on board state, and I can get an amber benefit from the Sting. And maybe come back even from having things drawn in the wrong order, right? This potentially gets me through my deck faster, actually, because if I go decent shadows for my next 2 turns, Then at the end of that, I will have dumped my hand, and I'll go back to drawing more cards, and get to flip through my deck and potentially, have like the Martian Generosity and Decay Abduction back. I also don't necessarily need them, right? If I establish really strong board state, there's a chance I can just win off of that. And I think, so yeah, Squirrel pointed out Devin hadn't turned his keys over, so they came and they asked, and he was like, "Oh, that's right." He immediately acknowledged it, and again, just a silly mistake that people make. I usually try not to sort my hand, but after I've done a Martian Generosity draw, I will sort my hand, because come on, it's just too much to think about. But I usually try not to sort my hand. Now, he has a great Untamed hand here, and he has a board that's really rivaling my own in terms of size. So I did get some help there, but from the Martian Generosity, but it's a little rough. Now he hits the Dominator with the Mushroom Man. Are we forgetting damage again? I think I might catch it this time. He Lost in the Woods is my my Collector Worms. I haven't shuffled my deck yet, so let's watch that. But I think he said it won't matter. Or I'm trying to remember what happens here. I need to shuffle my deck. He's shuffling his. It's so rough. Oh good. Whew. I was so worried I was going to forget it there. And he might have reminded me. I always think, oh yeah, I'll get to that later, and sometimes you don't. So really just have to do better at that. But we got it done right here. And I got, he did forge. Oh no, he still hasn't yet. Okay. What did I just play? Oh, Banish, I think. And then Dust Imp fights into Moon Cursor. That's a great trade. And you know what I'm thinking is, I want to leave the Sting out, and I probably want to take my Shadow's turn next turn. Doc Bookton is a great target for the bindings because I don't care. Yeah, that was a Banish. So yeah, so he does Forge now. He spends 6, I gain 6, and that puts me in a great spot because I am basically in position to forge 2 keys at this point once I get rid of the Sting. So, and I have a handful of Shadows cards, right? I drew a lot of cards. I dropped all my Mars cards. I took a Deist turn. I dropped all my Deist cards. I got Restringentus on the board, which gives him a hard time. That's an unfortunate Wild Wormhole pull, although he should, yeah, it helps him with the Doc Bookton. I'm checking my dog. All right, we're back. So, yeah. So yeah, he did get the one off of the full moon for the Doc Bookton. I think he was so bummed about Wild Wormholing the full moon after playing the Bat Drone that he almost missed that. I pointed out, which you should do if you're in that situation. No question about it. So it just makes sense to go Shadows here. I'm probably going to kill the Sting. I think I kill the Sting. Oh, Sucker Punch I have to do first, right? Because it's alpha. Then I kill the Sting. Yeah. Ronnie Wrist Clock steals an Amber. Drop a Hideaway Hole on the board. Nerve Blast is going to steal one if I play. Yeah. Oh, Mac. Mac the Knife comes out. I have that Nerve Blast. I'm sure I'm going to play it. Oh, Life for a Life. I should kill Ronnie. Yeah. I want to kill Ronnie because I think I have a Not Finished With You Yet left. And I want to kill the Mother because I want to deny him cards. And then a Nerve Blast steals one and does 2 damage to the Dodger. Which, yeah, leaves me in a really good state. I'm now ready to forge 2 keys. Which I'm pretty happy about. And I know he doesn't have too much to protect or, you know, doorstep or any of the answers to huge Amber like that. So he does have Miasma. Oh gosh, yes, I forgot about that. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, okay, good. I'm gonna start forging these keys here. But in his, so from his perspective, right? He knows I have the key abduction, but he also knows it's in my discard pile and I have to draw around to it. So if he drops Miasma here, which I think he will, he plays Miasma here, that puts me where I still have to like go forge over the course of 3 turns. And if he can just get enough by that point and to forge his 3rd key, then even if I could have all the Amber in the world, and if I can't forge it fast enough, then it doesn't matter, you know. So so he's actually in a, even though I have you know, so much Amber, he is in a pretty good situation here. He steals one with the Dodger by fighting Mac. Plays Pawn Sacrifice. What did he kill with it? Okay, I'm not sure, but killed a bunch of my stuff. That's pretty good. Annoying. And he's back to, you know, having really good board state. I'm pretty worried because, you know, like, I can't forge. I'm counting my deck because I'm like, do I have a chance at drawing around to the Martian Gen? And I really just want to get to that as quickly as possible. The sooner I can get to Martian Generosity, the better. That's kind of my, I'm thinking that's my out. I could just generate my way out, but I'm also, you know. Oh, so yeah, the 2 damage at the beginning really didn't matter for the Dodger, right? Because things would have turned out a little differently, but not really, not much. So I use Mac to finish it off, gaining an Amber. Reap with Human, stun the Tentacus, because I don't really want to do anything with the Tentacus anyway, whereas I want to do stuff with Mac. Draw to 6. I still have 2 cards in my deck, which makes me sad. But I'm thinking, you know, okay, he doesn't have Miasma left. So I have that going for me. But he forges the 2nd key here. And, yeah, this is the thing I keep doing with my hand that I wish I would stop. I wish I would not do that. Yeah, he's still... I'm nervous, that's why. That's why I'm doing it. Because I actually, he just forged a second key. I haven't forged any keys yet, and I'm just thinking, yeah, I have a lot of amber. I can gain a lot of amber, but if I can't forge, then it just doesn't matter. He kills the Restringentus, draws with the library. Positron Bolt just wreaks havoc. I think killed Mac and Human, and then Beambuckler has an armor, so it didn't take that last damage. So he's at 2 keys and 3 amber, and I forged for 7 because of the Murmook. I have 5 amber toward my next key. The Old Bruno is also there. Yeah, I wish I had board clear. Thanks, commentator. Deciding what to do. I wish I could see what all is in my hand because I might be able to predict what I do, but I think I maybe go Dece. If I have an unlocked gateway, then I board wipe. Oh, no, okay. Okay. Yeah, Mars, I Collector Worm the Shadow Self. I use Mothership support. It's going to do 4 damage, right? Because I have 2 ready creatures. And I decided to kill the Murmook with it. And then I use the Collector Worm on the Old Bruno, I think, at this point. Yeah. Kill the... And I take the Nexus, and again, this might be controversial because it's like, well, why would you do that? But what I'm hoping is I get to forge with the 6. He won't be able to get the value out of the Nexus, and then I have the opportunity next turn to kill the Bruno. Now he's at 4, I think. He's at 4. I'm gonna forge, so he's at 4 amber. I'm at 0 amber. We're both at 2 keys. He's at 4 amber. I'm at 0 amber, but there's 3 or 4. I think 4 on the Old Bruno, because maybe I got one there with Mind Warper. And I'm going to drop some D stuff. So I play Bloodshard Imp and Ortanu, and then I Hecatomb. So Hecatomb gains me 1 amber for the pip, plus 1 for each of the things that of the D cards that I killed. So 3 total. I play Not Finished With You Yet. And I put back Ronnie and Umbra, I guess, and Merkins. No, I decided not to keep the Umbra. So so just Ronnie and Merkins. I know I'm going to draw them next, and then I unlocked Gateway to kill everything. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm at 7 now. From getting the amber back after the unlocked gateway. And does he have a way? And here's the great part. Because I got to shuffle, he can't swindle. So it would have been real bad if I hadn't got to shuffle. He could mimicry the swindle, and that would have been very sad for me. But that's not the way it went. I just shuffled, so Mimicry is now a dead card. And I think the play that's really left here is to do Logos Neurosiphon, right? He can steal 1, draw, maybe he draws into something that he can use. That's really the play here. So I think actually if he gets, like, let's say he gets, does he have a key cheat? I don't know if he has a key cheat in there. But let's say he gets, between this draw and the next one, he gets Phase Shift Old Bruno, right? Well, that would keep me off for a turn. and he'd be ready to forge. Yeah, and he drew the Neurosiphon again, which doesn't steal another one. Yep. Brutal. Yeah. So yeah, that was great. Thanks for watching it with me. I guess closing thoughts. One is, just be kind and assume positive intent in other people. There were some definite play mistakes. We both made some mistakes in there, and when we saw each other's mistakes, we pointed them out and graciously worked together to move forward. And it wasn't a big deal. There was some stuff that neither of us caught that, I just, oh well, that's life. We try to get better. But, generally speaking, mistakes do happen, and, just try to be disciplined and kind in resolving those things. And then the other things I would say, I think sometimes, so that second game is not how I like that deck to play, and I think there's a lot of value in recognizing when you're in one of those situations where like the deck is not giving you what you want in the order that you want, and you decide to just lean into it and say, okay, I have to play with what I drew. I'm just gonna do that to the best that I can, and I think dumping the key abduction early, holding it would have been a mistake. Dumping it early, playing the Martian Generosity when I did. Those were all things that ultimately led to a win, even though they felt bad in the moment because they weren't the optimal version of that play. They were the right version of it for the moment. So thanks so much to Devin for just great games, and I hope to see you again in the future. And if you're watching and play Keyforge, then I hope to see you in the future at one of these events. And I hope that that you enjoyed this, and that it maybe helped you think through things a little differently from a perspective of how to play in a tournament setting, as well as maybe just some stuff about how to think about plays during the game. So thanks so much for watching, and get out there and forge those keys.